There were three series that defined the golden age of beat-em-ups: Double Dragon, Final Fight, and Streets of Rage. Streets of Rage was originally created for the Sega Genesis in 1991. It became wildly popular, and 2 years later in Europe and South America was downported to the Sega Master System. Unfortunately, not everything ported over from the 16-bit Big Brother, such as the graphics and sound, 2-player capabilities, and only allowing 2 enemies on screen at one time. Even so, the downport still delivers an impressive beat-em-up experience for an 8-bit system. This game pretty much has everything you can expect from an 8-bit beat-em-up. You can play as one of the 3 heroes: Adam Hunter, Axel Stone, or Blaze Fielding. I usually choose Axel because I can relate to a guy that shares the same hobby as myself. They all have similar movesets, but minor variations to set them apart, such as being faster or more powerful, and having their own animations. This is great since you'll get a slightly different experience depending on which character you play. The downside is that your experience will only differ slightly. Unfortunately, the characters don't really feel too distinct from one another. Regardless, no matter who you play, you'll be able to mash out a basic combo, jump kick, use weapons, or throw, among a couple other things. Your moves do add a decent amount of variety to how you approach your enemies, but honestly, everything offered here is par for the course. Like the 16-bit version, the environments offer a degree of interaction, with some breakables along with some pits to fall into or throw enemies into. I should also mention that Streets of Rage also looks and sounds pretty good considering the hardware it is running on, surprisingly not suffering from much slowdown or flickering. While this game does feature much of what is expected from a beat-em-up game, it is missing perhaps the most important component: multiplayer. It is nice to choose from one of the 3 heroes, but it would have been an absolute blast to be able to choose from 2 of the 3 heroes with a friend. Another issue with the game is that it only allows for 1 enemy type at a time on the screen. You'll generally be fighting 2 bad guys at a time, but they will both be the same, having the same attacks and attack patterns. This makes the game feel pretty stale, especially in the later levels when some of the enemy types can be really tedious to fight. The worst is the whipping girl Nora, who will crouch and become unhittable after being hit once, until you move far enough away to hit her again in later stages. If they had mixed enemy types, this really wouldn't have been much of an issue, since you would encounter a lot of variations of enemies. However, as it is, you'll really feel like you are just playing through a lot of the same. Additionally, the game is pretty lengthy, consisting of 8 levels, which isn't generally a bad thing. However, the fact that you are just fighting your way through an unchanging horde of baddies gets a little dull, and being a long game does not help that. There are also some minor issues worth mentioning in this version. You can use a special once a level or life except on the last stage, but it requires you to pause the game. And with the pause button located on the console, you may just forgo using it in some situations. Another issue is that the hitboxes seem to be a bit off, but it works to your advantage because your basic attacks have a ton of reach, almost like you have a weapon. And on the flip side, when you pick up a weapon, you might as well consider it health loss because your reach is significantly reduced, it feels like. I have played Streets of Rage on the Sega Genesis, and considering the limitations, this is a pretty faithful port to the source material. Any fan of the series or beat-em-up fan in general should pick up and try this game. It offers a solid core experience, and perhaps the best single-player experience on the Sega Master System for a beat-em-up with different selectable characters, a variety of moves, and great tunes to keep you playing till the end.